Okay. All right, it's been a while since I've done this stuff. Yeah, with the 11, I'm a big fan of 11. Um, and yeah, I think you've seen in past videos the slowdown issue as your project gets bigger. That parsing or compilation step takes a long time. I know I've been meaning to port it to Rust, but I feel that's been a bit challenging too. And I kind of skilled up in a bit of assembly lately with what is it, the disassembly of that Seawolf game, and a little bit of in the demo, the Silent Enigma demo. So I thought, well, do I stand a chance of porting the parser to assembly? So maybe I'll just share some of that journey now. Which one should I open up? Maybe this. No, no, I won't do that one. Maybe to sort of take a look at what the 11 parser code looks like in its original form, in the basic 65 form. It's very traditional, one or two character variable names, and a lot of go sub and go to, go sub line numbers everywhere, go sub here and there. So yeah, it's a lot to digest, um, and process mentally, like what's going on. I at least for this 11 pass.base, I improved that. I'll just split this up and I'll open up another one, 11 pass.11. So I ported, if that's the right word, or transcribed maybe, this 11 parser that's in basic form into 11 itself, so it can be a bit more humorable. You see up the top I put some nice healthy comments to sort of say how memory is used by the parser. Um, but just there's like an immediate win. Like some of these variable names here, these 1000 dimension things. There's a few over here as well. You can see I've had the luxury of to give these nicer names. Maybe I should bring that one up. Just so you can put them side by side a bit. So, what would you prefer? Like someone looking at your code, trying to figure out what does ln percentage stand for? Would you rather tell them, map destination to source line number, something a bit more obvious, and, LI dollar, would you prefer that, or would you prefer something a bit more meaty, like, yeah, this is the destination line, after we pass it, these are the final things. EC versus element count, how many counts of various types of variables do we have? How many string variables have we accumulated so far, or int variables and so on. So yeah, already that was a bit of an ordeal porting this across to 11 itself. But yeah, the hope was, that once it's in this form, a main function and other if I maybe scroll down a few pages down, I've got the parser here, but step 2 pass, and then all the various routines and functions after that declare. Not that I can recall off the top of my head what all of these are, but they read a lot easier than their basic 65 equivalents. You could go through this and you could almost wonder, where are the routines? You'd really have to pick them out carefully. Okay, rem this and that. But here, get file name, here you go, nice and easy, a bit more elegantly presented, and human readable. But yeah, that's the next step, potentially moving this on to another friendlier language, maybe Rust. So yeah, picking assembly, I would say that's a particularly friendly language, but I've been trying. So maybe I should share what that effort is looking like so far. How do I explain this? On the left is my attempt. I'll just point with the mouse. 11.parse. Normally it's 11.parse.bas for basic, but now it's 11.parse.asm for assembly. So here I've got my attempts to slowly port piece by piece into assembly language. Yeah, plenty of macros there. I'll skip over lots of macros. Um, Zero page usage, various things. Mulling over, should I put it in the zero page, or should I put it in higher points of memory? Does it need to be initialized by me, or will it be initialized by the program when it loads? Um, but yeah, is there a main program here? Yeah, there is. So there's a main in here. I don't know if I could match it up with the main on the other side. Can I? Oh, this is the test program. on the left right now. Oh, I can open up 11parse.lpc. So open somewhere else. Just open read only then. So there's a main in here, and I guess I started out by just copy pasting what was in the 11 version into an ASM file, put it all as a comment, and then slowly reading it line by line. All right, we want to print some text, so how am I going to do that? Concoct some sort of routine here. It's printing some inline text based on the bytes that come after it. Then it'll jump back over here. Add a carriage return. So yeah, I just sort of plod along line by line. Even I'm skipping lines like all these token definition. I'm skipping that stuff like in the too hard basket. I don't want to think about it right now. Or get file name. All right, I want to think about that right now. I'll try and devise some sort of get file name and yada yada. Dive into details and compare it to the 11 PCs. And again, I would have copy pasted all the 11 version of this and over here, then pondered how am I going to achieve the same thing in the source. Um, yeah, it's tedious, but maybe one thing I wanted to share was like maybe a current snippet. Let's say, uh, I mean, or maybe I'll share how it's running. I'll probably put a few breakpoints, which doesn't help. I'll turn off any breakpoints. Maybe I'll just point it here for now. So right now I just tend to go, the first thing I print out these days is to reload the latest program, and so I can just press enter on this line up here. Then it'll just run the test quickly and tell me which passed or failed. Just my hope is like, as I plod along and, make this routine do this, oh, that seems to work, make that routine do that. No doubt I'm going to add stuff and it's going to break routines I thought used to work, and I'm hoping, I could be right or wrong, that this might help me keep an eye on what I've broken. I mean, it's an extra layer of work. It does slow things down to do things this way. But anyway, I hope there's some merits along the way. But maybe I thought I could share just one of these journeys, like one little routine, and maybe just writing one little test, and what that's looking like for me right now. Maybe based on what was my last one, decimal number check. Um, decimal number. Oh, this is in the 11 side. I'll go back to the test side. Okay, that's in. Sorry if you're not used to Vim. 11 parse test ASM. This file has all my tests, and I guess we will after decimal number check. So that's a test that I wrote for testing various scenarios on this functions. So on the left hand side over here, I can find that decimal number check. Yep. And so yeah, basically the test is like set up some of the desired inputs. This one has an input of current token, and then its output should be expecting a certain flag to be 0, or maybe a change in that current token. And then on this side, I set up the inputs I want. So um, I put the text into this current token. It's a bit kludgy the way I've done it, but yes, the current token will then equal this string 5, and then I call the desired routine I want to check, JSR decimal number check, and then I do various comparisons. Did that flag that could have changed? Is it, I'm expecting an output of that? Did that expecting label become 0? If not, I'm upset. That's a fail. And then there's another check on what this current token should be. Some calls I expect it to stay the same, so I'm expecting a check here on a string. Expected 1. I expect it to be what I put in, a 5. If it isn't, I'm going to put a failure. And in the next scenario, instead of current token equal 5, I'm going to make the input to current token equal 0. And that's one of the special cases here. Inside this routine, it does some dodgy things to turn 0 into a dot, some sort of Microsoft basic optimization. So it's a check for that. So yeah, I set up the input to be the current, current token to be string 0. And then I call that routine, decimal number check. And then again, I check that flag that's supposed to be an output. Is it 0? Good. Yeah. And then I check the string. Has that string now, has it changed from a 0 into a 1? Yes, that's good. Or no, that hasn't happened. That's bad. So I must have done something wrong in this routine. So that's my cue to dig into this routine and see if I need to fix something and something's broken. So yeah, maybe I'll share like why am I doing this decimal number check? This actually wasn't a routine in the original 11 PC file. If I open that, I'm 11 parse.elpc. Yeah, open read only. If I look in here, there is no decimal number check routine, but there is one of the thing above check token for subbing. Um, oh yeah, I should check my audio, huh? Hello, I think the audio's on. Yeah. So yeah, the original basic code only had, let's say, something like that. Yeah, don't ask me what it does because it's hard for me to remember. There's just it's too much detail. Um, uh, but yeah, a lot of the basic routines are very long-winded, and I think it's just too overwhelming to do it in a similar fashion in assembly, at least for me. So yeah, I found I need to make things a bit more bite-sized, and so okay, here's an if decimal number check sort of behavior here, and so I've grouped that into a routine to say that's decimal number check, so I can mentally focus. That's all it needs to do, and I just make sure does it really do what it needs to do. Um, and of course, I move on next to whatever this particular F has some sort of behavior it wants to do. Um, yeah, and I move along like that. It's pretty painful to remember this because you got to remember I didn't write 11. It was written by Ubik, so usually the person that writes something has the best memory of how everything works, and so that's not me in this case. I am trying to refresh my understanding of how his tool worked as I go. But maybe making these bite-sized pieces helps. That way, at least I can just focus on a little bit of his implementation at a time and not get too overwhelmed, hopefully. So yeah, so let's say I've recently implemented that yesterday. Maybe next, let's say if we go together, this next part, this next chunk he had in mind, check if we should mark this expected label. As for what he means by that, I can't remember exactly, but I think if he thinks that there's some sort of string in the source. Um, there's an example of this. Oh, well, yeah. Maybe if we imagine it's this source itself, GoSub. Normally this would be a number, right? GoSub 1500 or something. So as he's passing such source line by line, I think he's making an assessment. Does this particular token need to be marked in some way so that the step two of the pass two will do the substitution of it. So instead of mark current talk label, pass to will say, oh, I found it thanks to the extra markers you put to the start and the end of it, and I'll swap it out for 1500. So I believe that's what it's intending to be done. But yeah, we can, on the left hand side, we can jump to that, check mark expected label. And again, I've just pasted what was in the 11 source and mulling over how it should be done in um, assembly. Uh, so I try and mentally look at it a bit and say, all right, what is this looking at? It's looking at this expecting label flag. It can be 0 or 1. There's another flag, don't mark a label flag. Again, I can't remember exactly what these things are or what they mean or their intentions all the time. But then it does, if these are flags are in a certain condition, true or false, then this marking of the current token will be done. Add this special markers at the end and the beginning. And then we turn off this expecting label flag because it was on at the start and return. Uh, yeah, all right. So again, I'm no expert, but maybe did I have like some sort of macro for the comparison? I'm getting more acquainted with macros. Um, whether I use them in a nice way or not so nice, it's hard to tell. But I try get some leverage from them. I mean, maybe I shouldn't use it, but just to see what I'm up to. So normally, like I would have done load a expecting label, and then compare it. Is it a 0 or a 1? And sometimes it's a bit backwards in assembly. I compare it to what it shouldn't be or something. So here, I guess it's expecting it to be on, um, but I'm going to say compare it to 0, and if it's equal, then jump over this stuff. That's, I guess, it's opposite, but anyway. And then, so that's handled. That's, oh, and as for the macro, I guess maybe it's the same thing really, but whether it made it human readable or not, I guess that's debatable. But instead of those two, I maybe just use this macro instead. If we look at the definition of this macro, it basically is just those two lines. I'll delete them and go to the macro. Here it is. So I'll just paste those two lines I'm deleting. So the macros here compare, I guess U8 is my byte thing, V is variable. So compare this U8 variable to this immediate value, and then you feed in two parameters var, which in this case is expecting label, and val, which in this case is 0. And it's the same thing. Load a with expecting label, compare it with whatever value I said here, which is 0. So yeah, that's the goal of the macro, which is pretty simple, I guess. So where's the one I did here? Oh no, yeah, okay. So in this check mark expected label. So yeah, whether it's a win or not, I don't know. I find assembly gets very long-winded very quickly. So maybe for me it's a win if things are just a single line over multiple lines. I know it's a modest win. But maybe, okay, the same thing, U8V to immediate. Don't mark label. Compare it to this time, I guess, 1, even though it seems like the opposite here. uh, yeah, there could be better or worse ways. And again, if it's not that thing I wanted, I'm just going to skip over this stuff in the middle. Um, JSR to this mark current talk label thing, which I haven't got yet. And then I set this one. Again, I could just do this with, load a um, in expecting label. But instead, I think I had some other macro assign U8V to immediate. Just, I think, well, at least equals immediate. Just instead, I did expecting label is 0. Yeah, whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but that's what I'm doing. And then return RTS. So yeah, incrementally, whether we want to jump into mark current token, yeah, maybe it's too much detail. But maybe the other side of the equation is probably the pondering of how to write a test for it. I think the sort of test-driven development mantra is write the test first and then write the implementation later. Like their philosophy is, I mean, it was my last workplace that sort of indoctrinated me a little bit with that sort of thing. So if I go back into, where was the test thing? Yeah, 11 test, sorry, 11 test pass, test ASM. So I've got a whole bunch of tests. That was my last one. Yeah, the idea would be to write a test for this routine first. So test, check, mark, expected, label. Um, just for my um, dodgy sort of hack together unit test mechanism, all my tests I preface with this test underscore underscore, and inside my makefile I've got some fancy grepping and whatever other stuff that sort of auto generates another file based on what it can see has a test underscore underscore. I guess we can look at that auto gen file. Is it? I forgot the name of it. Maybe I just edit the make file and see test. Yeah, I run this bash script test auto gen, and inside tests auto gen I probably do some dodgy stuff like look for that in a grep. Yeah, and then it pumps out some echo output to go into an auto-generated file, or strings with the names of the tests and an array of pointers to the names of the tests and the function pointers to those tests. So the name of the file it goes into, did I mention? Tests autogen.asm. So yeah, this one is the auto-generated ASM file. In this, you see all the strings of the names of the tests, and yeah, this big array of pointers to that string, and a function pointer to call that. And so in this run test sort of routine, it'll go through this array and say, print this one on the screen and say, okay, now run it. Did it pass or fail? Or print out pass or fail. Yeah, so that's what we're kind of adding to that array right now, simply by adding that test underscore underscore. The next time we build, it'll add that extra function pointer into that list. Um, I had a sort of if a test fails, it should set the carry flag. If it passes, it clears the carry flag. Let's say I'll just run make test now. Does it have any errors? Maybe it did. Um, oh yeah, I know. There's no such function as mark current total. We won't worry about that for now. We'll just comment it out for now because this is just demonstration purposes, and we kind of want the test to fail anyway. And so it's built. It ran that test auto generation stuff. It'll add that pointer onto that list to call this extra test. So if we go into here, and if I go into there, I had a nice trick to sort of bring the home key up and do the enter automatically. If you type ty tittle tilde and h, it'll do that for you. Okay, and you can see it's called our extra test we got here. Test check mark expected label. It's fail. So yeah, that's the I guess the step one for test-driven development. Make the test that fails, and then add the logic in that you're expecting, and then add your logic into your routine to sort of appease your test. So yeah, I'll say that beyond that, I don't know how exciting the journey will dig into it because it's time consuming. But yeah, maybe I'll leave it there. I'll also mention, just if anyone's interested, that I did set up a Patreon. I know I'm a bit sheepish about putting the hand out for money and things like that, but if you're interested to do so, and if you want to sort of support that journey to sort of get 11 to a more usable state, yeah, I'd welcome it. Whether it's just a one-off thing, that's fine, no problem. All right, yeah, I'll leave it there. Okay. Oh, and yeah, the actual thing is a Patreon slash Gucci, so that's all it is. All right, that's all for now. See you.